Before today's review, I have a brief announcement. I want to say thank you all for the feedback on Wednesday's coffee break. If you didn't see it, here's the short and simple of it. After last week's review, I read your feedback and talked with some folks and decided that it's best to return the replay review series to the way it initially was created and grown. I focused heavily on low to mid-range gameplay players, trying to aid in helping the players improve by breaking down in individual situations or helping to describe tactics that would benefit the player. The new style of replay review that I did last week definitely will continue, but under a new name. I felt like I had alienated a lot of the viewers that had subbed to my channel for the replay review series. Because of this, I want to continue the replay review series as it was, focused on low to mid-range gameplay with the goal of improvement and helping players. However, last week's flashy cast style will still exist. I liked a lot of the titles you guys suggested, and I would much rather produce a highlight-based show out of your gameplays and clips than trying to mix two things together, really. The replay review series, it's its own entity. It needs to be its own, and it has its own properties, right? Just as a highlight-style video should have its own properties and should grow from feedback from you guys, and we should sort of work together in building that the way we want to do it and the way it will work best for the channel. I feel like the replay review series was pretty set in its roots, and I had reach to sort of get that guideline down from you guys as to what you wanted to see, and then rather than just get rid of that format, get rid of that template that we worked hard on, I would like the two of them to coexist. And I've taken down the submission video, or the how to submit video, as I need to create a new one that outlines the changes. Give me spring break, it's this upcoming week, to decide and get it all fleshed out. I would imagine the new format will be laid out then. Thanks everybody for the support through this process. I don't want to make more announcements because I'm still kicking ideas around, and I don't want to sound silly if some of those ideas change. So I'm stoked we can have this back and forth. Your feedback last week was very helpful, and without further ado, today's replay review.
Regicide!
What's good, viewers? BBK Dragoon here with a replay review. Today we are on board with a Russian Rhyno here, Regicide on Complex. Let's take a look at the email he sent. Hi, I'm Joseph, but call me Joe, or Russian Rhyno, and what I have sent is a Regicide and Complex. It is a pretty good game. I was mostly going for King and going for power weapons, but it seemed like I was losing a lot of DMR battles and getting killed way too easily. I was mostly going for the scatter shot and the sniper, but I just kept dying even when I had perfect chance to kill up close. Please be very critical about my moves and decisions. All right. Well, thank you for the submission, Joe. I'm just going to call you, how about we call you Rhino? Or Russian? No, I think Rhino works pretty well. I'm going to be very critical today, actually, in your replay review. I'm appreciative that you sent this. It came at a great time. And I think it demonstrates a lot of issues many players will have. So let me pull my notes up here. We're going to be talking about risk versus reward, power positions and why they're important, and your decisions within your gunfight. You need to play to your strengths, and you a lot of times are going to throw the dice and go for a risky outcome. And quick note here, the thrust pack actually thrusts you downward, so it's not going to help you gain positions of height. Sometimes you can get a weird push off a wall, but I'm going to break this situation down right here because you hit him with the body shot, and you miss a huge opportunity for one of the easiest kills quite possibly ever. You're in a really exposed area. I'm not sure why you're here. You get the body shot, and immediately you push the Y button, like right now, dude. If you're not fully confident that you're going to be able to hit that next shot before he can kill you, you pull out your DMR, and it gives you a lot easier chance. It conserves ammo. The DMR is going to make this a guaranteed kill. And this is what I'm going to try and focus on in the game today, is showing you how to make choices that give you guarantees on your investment. Okay, that aren't risky. Because what you did there was very risky. You took a power weapon to a really open position, like up on that rock. Again, another situation here where you're making a risky choice in your positioning. I'll get back to that last situation in a second. There's 4 guys here, and there's 4 guys on the radar, and you're going to do basically a circle, and you're not going to make use of the power positions. In this situation, being on the floor is so dangerous. You're very open space. So I applaud you in trying to flank them. This is a pretty decent flank. You're using the radar. I like it. But you're going to get right up to the second story and not use any of the advantage that the building offers you. No! Why? So look, we've just ended up right where we started. You have no advantage. Now the enemy knows where you are, and you've whiffed a melee. So what happened here? You got the power position. You got above him. You had the advantage here, and oh my gosh. The replay system, Halo 4. I pushed back twice and it went to the beginning. Okay, hold on. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. I'll fast forward. So, just because there is a player on your radar doesn't mean you have to try and kill him immediately. Rather, try and get to an advantageous spot on the map like you are right here. If you just stayed up here and shot down on him, Rhino, that engagement would have been so much easier. Yet, you're back on the floor, you whiff a melee, and allow a really easy kill that should have been, for you, a guaranteed power position, and at least a guarantee to not die easily if he held that power position. Rather, okay, try and get an advantageous spot on the map. Give yourself an advantage rather than overcommit to a risky outcome like rolling the dice. If you aren't 100% sure you can pull the kill off and get out safely, don't go for it, especially in Regicide, and I'll explain that in a second. So I want to note here, when you're one shot, I just don't jump right now. Does that make sense? If this guy was a good player, he can see you. So jumping exposes you, and if that guy was on his game, I'm sure he could have killed you there. Also, next moment right here is some sloppy nade throws. The guy's around the corner, and you stuff 2 nades on the floor. I'm going to show you a spot in a second that's going to aid you in getting a really easy corner nade on that guy, and then you can add it to your play whenever you play. Alright, let's see here. What did it? Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Replay system's a little bit wonky. Okay. So instead of throwing them at the floor, I would encourage you to throw them high up on the ceiling. As you can see on the radar, it's a pretty good distance away from you, and there's a partition around the corner. So you want to make sure you're hitting it at a wide enough angle, an obtuse enough angle, you could say, so that you're going to get it back in that corner and at least do some damage. Because the first nade doesn't even come close. Second nade, all it does is cue him to turn on his Promethean vision and screws you basically in the engagement. Instead, look right up here. See that spot? That's going to at least do some splash damage on him and allow you to decide whether it's time to go in or not go in. After the replay, I'll go a little bit more in depth on how you, in general, can become a better individual player, but for now I'm going to focus on these individual situations. A lot of times people will say, well, you were playing just a hard team, or you were playing a bad team, or this, that, and the other. I don't care about any of that stuff, and neither really do the pros when they're analyzing their replays and looking at their gameplay. All they're looking for is, was every individual choice that I made as a player the best choice possible? And ultimately the answer is going to be no. No player is perfect, and no player ever plays the perfect game, which means there's always room to improve. Every pro can get better. Every amateur can get better. There's no ceiling. Does that make sense, you guys? Individually, situations, you would look at a situation like this and I would tell you, what are you doing? You know, you had a position of height control here on the second story. The guy was unaware of you, yet you opted to sprint at him when you had countless time to put 3 to 4, even 5 killing shots into him. Like, why are you sprinting right here when you could just bang, 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 bang? But we're going to start to see a theme in your replay and your gameplay again of relying on a bolt shot up close and throwing 2 sticky grenades. When you shoot him with the DMR, you do just fine. Really. Like, you've got a decent aim, but you don't use the DMR enough. You sprint at people very, very often. Your close range engagements are handled poorly. It's okay, but you need to practice this or zone your opponents out differently. By zoning, I mean picking what weapon you want to use and when you want to use it and what range it's effective in. Speaking of weapons, why do you still have the rockets out? Immediately you want to ditch the weapon that has no ammo in it, and it caused you to die without getting a single shot on your opponent. So I am going to harp you there. Don't ever, you guys, leave a weapon with no ammo up. If you have a gun as your secondary that has ammo, pull it out and focus on getting another gun ready just in case. Again, sort of a sloppy jump. Not sure why you needed to jump. In the end, it slapped your momentum and let the guy get an extra 2 shots into you, which let the Promethean Vision guy just come in and steal it quite easily. Now, movement in FFA is really dynamic, and I've talked a lot about stealing kills and moving around the map in order to sort of capitalize on others' gunfights. I don't even want you to focus on that, Rhino. Today, I just want to focus on these individual engagements and how you can sharpen up as a gunfighter. In this situation, you sprinted so far across the edge that this guy has time to see you, has time to aim. He's already ready to go, man. You can't sprint as much as you do. You over-sprint constantly in this game. Whereas if your DMR was up and you would have used that edge tighter, like right there at the end of that fight, you were using that edge real tightly. And again, you sprint. Oh, that's the thing I'm talking about, man. You can't just say, okay, screw it, I'm going to bum rush him with a sprint. You get the kill in that situation, but it's going to get you killed so much in the mid to late game. Puts you in risky situations, and so often you ditch. That's the best place you can be on this map, dude, is the top of the 7 building, controlling the sightlines, controlling space, having access to a lot of escape routes. But instead, you bum rush off of it with the DMR, throwing nades, trying to sticky det people, and just toss a couple... sticky det and then throw 2 sticky nades at him. Don't take this as, like, I don't know, negative. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to help you grow, like you said, be as critical as possible. But what you just did in that situation sums up the whole gameplay. You give up your advantage for a really, really risky situation. You had the top of the building. You didn't need to attack that guy. That guy had to push you. You own that spot. You can now make the enemy play into your palm by playing defensively, basically. It's not even defensively. It's just knowing when to engage and when to disengage. A lot of this is experience, but a lot of it is like looking at your replay. In this situation, again, you've got to change the way you see these situations. You can't look at this and go, oh, hey, I see a guy who's not looking at me, so I'm going to sprint at him and hope nobody sees me running across the entire map with my sticky detonator. No. Oh, he's dead. Oh, there's a guy behind me and he killed me. Whereas look at all the sight lines you have access to on the top of this building. That fight, you could have gotten a triple kill, maybe, if you were just DMRing in there and stealing their kills and using the height advantage. To go a little bit deeper into this idea of, like, improving, when I look at these replay reviews, notice I'm not talking at all about what the other players are doing. I could honestly care less. It's going to be different in every game. And you guys have to approach your replays in the same manner. You're going to have to look at situations where it's like, well, I didn't know he had a beam rifle. Of course I died to it. No big deal. Move on. Next time, try and either get more intel from my teammates or pay closer attention to the weapon drops, right? You have to look at the game from your perspective as to what you can do to improve. You'll find it really frustrating, and I see a lot of people who don't look at the replays because it's like, well, whatever. My teammates sucked. Don't look at that. That's going to be different in every game. You can't look at those really weird random factors. You want to look at every individual gunfight and every individual situation you have control over. There's a lot of decisions you get in Halo. It's not just moving. It's not just shooting. It's a lot about when you move and when you shoot. And that's highly dictated by practice. And you can speed that process up, though, through looking back at your gameplay. Like in this gameplay, we've watched the same mistake like 5 times. Like you sprint at somebody and then you put yourself in a bad situation after getting like a single melee kill or a sticky kill. I do the same thing, you guys. When I look at my replays, I'm like, well, I choke anytime I try and snipe and then YY out of the scope instead of just clicking the stick twice. Yet I consistently make that mistake. So if you watch these replays, you can do yourself a great deal of time saving, honestly, by saying, oh, okay, I do that same thing like a couple of times. Oh, wait, I do that like in every game. Oh my gosh, I've been doing it for months. And then you can alleviate it. And before you know it, situation is solved. Okay. So at the end of this gameplay, I have a lot of notes that I'll read off to help you improve. But Rhyno, you're a good player. And it's just a few small mistakes that you consistently are making that hold you back. After you conquer those, there'll be new little mistakes that you'll be able to find and point out. But for now, I want you to focus on zoning people differently and controlling the height, okay? You don't need to sprint at everybody on your radar, and let them come to you instead of you having to always go to them. Then you're playing into their situation. You're playing into their advantages, and that's no good. So it'll make for risky play. Sometimes you'll get some cool things like that situation where it's like, hey, you ended up with like 2 or 3 kills out of the deal. Not bad. But you'll also end up with a lot of times where you're like, why am I in 3rd place when I was doing so good, or at least I felt like I was killing it? And how did this guy end up killing me here, and how does everybody know where I am? Again, I'll sound like a broken record. Experience will conquer all of this, but we want to, it's an attitude of growth, and it'll help you when you play your matches rather than sitting down to be like, I'm going to go grind some Halo, guys. You're going to be sitting down to play Halo with a focus of improving. This situation here, I will say it's so hard to actually just get the melee instead of the assassination. If you can, I've heard if you melee and then immediately press Y, you will quickly just do the melee instead of the assassination, because the assassination animation, while it is sick, gets me killed more often than not. Thank you, Rhino, for the replay. So as to my notes and what you should sort of process and hopefully take away from this review, I'm going to open with, I think stealing kills is a concept that should be implemented into your play after you fix these fundamental areas of your play. You take dangerous risks, like drop down from a place of height advantage, sprint at opponents routinely, and rely on plasmas up close. For now, let's work on holding places of map control. These areas offer a lot of cover and escape routes, okay? Sprinting is most effective in flanking and securing places of advantages like height. In your case, your movement was more centered around just chasing opponents, rather than holding down, let's say, the top of the 7 building or the scattershot building. There's a lot to be said about strategy within Regicide towards when to take kingship and when to push the king also. For now, though, I would encourage you to just try and fight more DMR fights, rather than push people with the bolt shot. You rely on it for your close range battles as well as the sticky grenades. You'll become a much stronger player if you stop sprinting directly at enemies, whiffing a melee, and then spamming 2 stickies. Great example, the beginning of the game, you were going up the lift, the only lift on the map, right? You get to the 2nd story and then immediately drop down on the guy when you didn't need to. You could actually just poke shots into him and force him to come up into you. You want enemies to play into your expectations. Does that make sense? By forcing him to come at the lift or forcing him to run away, you've just controlled the situation. Focus on shooting enemies from places of advantages. From there, you will grow in the understanding of FFA and ultimately Regicide. I think you get the FFA basic first of like stealing kills and moving around to steal kills basically and avoid death, and focus on like if there's a pot of 3 guys fighting there, I want to go in and try and nab 2 of them and get out of there safely basically. Naturally, your map movement will grow when you understand what to do and when to do it. This really only comes through experience and watching the replays. I would suggest fiddling with your sensitivity as well. I feel like it might be 1 notch too high. You might feel differently. I'd give it a try though. And don't worry about the crazy details of each map. Like if you noticed, I really didn't care what the other players were doing in this match. I'm only really focused on individual situations. Halo, guys, is a game of reading situations and making like the best possible guess and then executing upon it. We can't control what other players do whatsoever, but we can control how we play and how we improve our own play. So with that, you guys, I'm on spring break. Later.